Okay, we're live. Sorry, we're live. Everyone's, well, some of us are live anyway. I don't know if I'm alive. Anyway, Borough Properties first. I have a couple of things if we can get started. That's okay, Ms. Martin.
Yes, please. Thank you.
For all the committees, I again have the capital improvements plan information on here. And I again attached the projects that were submitted just for this committee and for each committee. And what we need to do is decide whether you are okay with the projects that were submitted, if you want to refer them to Finance Committee as they are, or make changes or what have you. If you want, I can show that on the screen if you think you need it. The one for Borough Property. Does anybody, the stuff that is in, oh heck, wait a minute. I'm
Yeah, would you
sorry.
show it, please, Mr. Morris?
Yeah, okay. Let me just find it again. Wow. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, so the stuff that's in pink, well, it doesn't look too pink here. The stuff that's in pink are items that did not carry into the new plan, but were not spent in the old plan. So they, at your discretion, can either carry into the plan or can be funded now to get started, or can be eliminated. I never got anything new from EAC on the bird sanctuary. This is how much we had, $8,000. The item in blue, there's only one in this case, were submitted after anything in blue on any of these came after the September committee meeting. And so I think I did send the project to you in an email, description and all that, and I added it to the summary. That's what I have. And just before anybody comments, I also added, oh, I'm sorry, there's also the recreation section here too. And then I did add this summary, just so you can see what the totals were for each year for items that were submitted. So that's what the third page is all about. Anybody need any explanation or anything pointed out? Sorry.
I have a question, Mr. Morris, please.
Yeah.
With regard to the second page, I believe it's on, the okay, the mushroom fountain in the adult pool at 28,000.
Mhm.
Was that, I believe that was the total for this. And wasn't it going to be half funded by a resident and the other half by the borough? Isn't that
Well,
correct?
it was going to be, I don't know if it's going to be funded in full or part by a resident, but it just kind of died. I never saw anything more about it. We did get something from the resident. I don't have it handy here, but I think he did give us a price for a quote. And I don't know where it went. I don't know if Walt's taking care of it or if it just kind of disappeared. But yes, that was the intent, but nobody resubmitted it. So I have it, that's why I have it in pink here. I assume that that's something you still may want to look at.
Well, I understand that was part of the capital plan. There's a picture of it. Mr. Reamer did some research, and it was part of the capital plan. I just don't know where it's under. Do you remember seeing that?
You mean the old
I don't
plan,
remember seeing that.
No, I thought it was the new plan.
the 2024 plan?
Yes.
I don't know. Everything I had there, I put in, I thought, unless something was submitted late, I'll have to double check that.
Yeah,
I
if
don't
you
have-
could just double check that, please. No need to look into it now, but I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that that was included.
Well, even if there's no project submitted, I can I can include that. I'll just make a note on my thing, oh heck, whatever this is called. I'll just make a note on this and I'll move the 28,000 also into 2024.
Excuse me, can I have a question? I think if we're looking at things that we can question whether we need to continue, is this something that's essential to the functioning of the pool? What's the purpose of having a mushroom fountain in the adult side of the pool?
Mr. Erbldinger?
I think Peg Stein is his name, wanted to donate $20,000. So
But in the absence of that, are we going to do this in the absence
hang
of
on, hang on. If he doesn't donate us the money, then we won't do it. If he does donate the money, I think $8,000 to add lots of fun to the pool is worthwhile. So it really depends on him, I think.
Mr. Morris, your hand
yeah.
is up.
Yeah, realize that the capital plan is different from the general fund. Nothing in here is set in stone. It's a plan for you to look at for the next 5 years. And what that means is that, for example, the mushroom fountain would have to be approved in 2024 again. Just approving this budget doesn't approve every single item in it, because you would not have, it's close to $1 million for 2024, and you would not have that. So anything that's in here still has to be officially approved by council by vote at a public meeting. It's not just approving the capital plan that approves the fact that you're planning, but it does not approve each individual item.
Okay, well, I have a question then about the Hillside Pavilion. Wait, is that? No, the 15,000 that's in pink, that's for all the shelters. Now, the small shelter, Hillside Pavilion number 3, we have, is that the one we were questioning whether to knock down or not?
Yes,
Is that the one across from the bridge?
yes.
Yeah, well, okay, I won't bring that up now then. I'll do it when we're in finance, but you know, that's one I would take off.
Okay,
I mean,
President Erbldinger?
I think if a committee is happy to take something off, we should do it now, because in finance we will have way too much stuff anyway. You know, anything we can get rid of in committees, I think it's a good thing if the committee agrees.
right, because
Yeah, I
you're
would-
supposed to recommend this, so.
Yeah, I recommend, if you are okay with it, I think you're right. It makes sense. We don't need that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. If we want to, or if you feel like we'd like to make a move on it, that's fine with me.
Okay, that would be really good news because we have $25,000 scheduled for that. And that's in such disrepair. I don't see a reason to continue trying on it. I don't believe people are even able to get to it now that that little bridge is closed. So if we want to take that off, Mr. Morris, let's do it.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
do that on the official spreadsheet.
Okay,
Now, the pedestrian bridge, aren't we trying to get that as part of a grant?
Yes,
Okay,
well, that's one of the things that Walt's applied for.
okay, very good. Now, the pool caulking maintenance, I thought next year we were hoping to get the company in to do that. Is this the payment to the company?
Yeah, Walt actually wants to bring that up in November. I talked with him
Oh, okay.
today. And he thinks that we should probably advertise for bids sometime toward the end of the year or very early in January. So we would be ready to go at it in March.
All right. Now the $5,000 for, it's at the swimming pool ice machine. Isn't that something we were getting from Siemens?
I don't know. Is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bioki, you have your hand up. I apologize.
No, no problem. I just wanted to make sure that the caulking maintenance, it should be more than just the caulking maintenance.
Yeah.
Should be pool inspection to make sure there's no leaks. do the caulking, and this should be done on a routine basis.
Annually.
Yes.
You can set up whatever you want when you do the bids. That's not a problem. And let me add too that if Siemens is going to do something, then that should still probably be in here. I did submit this stuff to Siemens a couple of times. I
Mhm.
never got any response from them. So if there's something that they're funding, that's fine. That's not a problem. It can still have this, you can still have it in the plan. Again, it's a plan, it's for big ticket items, and it's something that you want to go on record with, that it's there. So you should put it somewhere in public. I would prefer to actually to have Siemens, all the Siemens stuff shown there, or shown as a separate version of this with just Siemens items. But like I said, I submitted this stuff and I never got any response. Twice, I think.
I'll double check that then on Thursday, Mr. Morris, when we have our bi-weekly meeting.
Yeah, because I think all the things that are under the Siemens contract should be in here labeled Siemens contribution, and the ones that are ours should be labeled our contribution to the Energisa contract, so that it's clear.
President Erbaldinger, is your hand up?
The caulking, the reason why we lost so much water this year is because we let it slip and we waited too long. That's why I think Walt put it into every 3 years. So that should be actually one of the higher priority items in that budget, because obviously we need to do that. The other stuff is more nice to have, or a lot of those are nice to have.
Yes, I agree with you there. Does anyone else have any other questions then? Okay, I think that's okay so far.
I had
So
a
to-
question. The Coke Park, did we resolve the improvements to the shelter donation from the Rotary?
Yes.
That's And squared, okay, so that will be a donated contribution for the shelter improvement, is that correct?
Right.
Okay,
Oh, then that can come off, or do we?
we
keep
should
that
make
on,
a
Mr.
note, leave
Morris?
it on and
No,
make a
you-
note of it.
Okay, you should have anything that you're planning on doing should be shown so the public can see it, no matter where it's coming from. No matter where the funds are coming from a grant, donation, Siemens, doesn't make any difference. It should still be shown somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
But put a note on it that it's being contributed, and so that way we have a clear record
Well,
of that.
the note, when I do my budget message, I have notes in there. That's where something like that would go.
Okay,
Anybody else? Mr. Biocchi has his hand up.
Mr. Biocchi?
Yes, Ms. Martin. I just wanted to make sure that that donation to the Coke Park shelter was actually resolved to my recollection. We talked about it and that we had to replace part of the structure. So they wanted to put a roof on that structure. There's no sense in putting a roof on the structure if we're not going to do the other work.
Well,
I
I
think-
believe that Mr. Thielacker and perhaps Mr. Brett looked at that already and determined that those posts were okay. Does anyone have an update on that?
Yeah, I
Jimmy?
mean, is Jimmy there?
Mr.
ahead, Walt.
Reamer, do you know the answer?
Yeah, we went around the structure. The structure itself is solid. There's no issues with it. I mean, it's not the prettiest structure in the world because of the age of the stuff, but it is solid. There's no, cracks in the concrete foundation. The pillars are, the creosote dipped, not railroad ties, but the telephone poles. And they're in decent shape. Both Jimmy and I agreed that it was structurally sound. It just needed new face plates all the way around because that's rotted. And then obviously the roof structure itself, as we discussed, the plywood needs to be changed out, and obviously the shingles and tar paper. But the structure itself is sound.
Well,
Okay.
it just sounded like you told me it wasn't sound because you have some rot that needs to be.
It's not rot. It's just, it's weathered. People stapling things to it for, pinning stuff to it for the past however many years since it's been in existence. It's not the prettiest of pillars, but they're structurally sound. There's nothing wrong with them.
Okay, I mean, I not that I don't believe anyone, but I would like to get another opinion as to whether that is sound, because we don't want something like that falling down on people that are using it.
Mr. Brett, would you please be able to take a look at the supports for the Cook Park shelter and determine if they're okay?
Yeah, I can look at them tomorrow. I'm going to be in the borough almost all day tomorrow. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Were there any other comments or suggestions? Mr. Morris, then, will we let the Rotary Club know that we're in favor of the roof, but we're just doing an inspection? And once we have an answer, we'll get back to them?
I thought somebody, Walt,
I
didn't you
can,
already
I
do
can
that?
report, I can report to them tomorrow morning at the Rotary meeting if they haven't been informed already.
Yeah,
Well, I
they've
think
been
someone
informed.
received,
emailed
someone
them.
received notice.
Yeah, I emailed them.
Okay, and just as a reminder, if someone wants to speak, please put up your hand. Thank you. Are there any other comments then on the budget? Okay, I think we're ready to move on then.
Okay, so I will move that on to the Finance Committee for all the borough property items. The second thing, just as a note to let you know, I'm working on putting together a list of electronic equipment for the data room. I want to get the budget stuff done first. That's the first draft is due next Tuesday at Finance Committee. So that's all I'm really doing right now is concentrating on that. And I'll probably still be working on it on Tuesday before the meeting. That's how much time goes into this. But I will, we have 4 shelves that Mike Joseph identified of stuff that is equipment that can be removed. And so under the new resolution that was passed last month, I'll take care of doing that. I don't have anything else to report.
Okay, great. Was there anything from the Recreation Board, Mr. Reamer? Okay, then, moving on, Mr. Brett.
Hang on, I have a question.
Yes, President Erbaldinger.
I'm not sure if Mr. Riemer is ready about talking about, how we did this year versus last year for pool and rental. Maybe we have to wait until next week. I wonder if he has a big picture or what he has. You're on mute. Talking? Yeah.
I'm sorry. My computer cut out there. All of what you said.
Oh, I was asking if you have I don't think you have anything detailed yet to share with us, but if you have a big picture, how we did pool season versus last year and rental season versus last year, if you know any snapshot yet.
I don't have a snapshot yet. I mean, I know we pulled in 74,900 and change off of the new POS system that we installed at the pool. But I don't have the full snapshot yet. I was talking to Steve about that today as to exactly what you guys wanted to see. So that is something I'm going to be working on here to get you the details of membership breakdowns. Main reason for that is, if you remember, when I first started, everything was old school. So I have a Excel spreadsheet that tracked all of the memberships for the first part of the year until May, at which point the POS system then took over from there and tracked it from there. So I got all the reports off of Allison over the past few days that give me a snapshot of each individual membership that was charged to the POS system, And then I can, at that point, break everything down to specifics for individual family passes, family plus, et cetera, as well as the concessions for you. And I mean, if we want to go in detail, we can go as far as, you know, what items work, what items don't work, but
I
it's all.
don't think we need that. But would you be ready to do it next finance to talk about that?
I can certainly try. Yeah. Yeah, I can try. Yeah.
And Alison knows
Mr.
what we
Raymer.
typically get, so she knows. So like a little table. It's not a lot. It's like one page typically.
Yeah, I have all the information that, like, Cindy had snapshots that she left me of the various reports that she did. So I have that. And then, like I said, obviously we need to add a little bit to that with the POS system. I want to break that down even further to show credit card sales so that I can show you the percentage of credit card sales from implementation.
All right, that's good. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, then, we're finished with the rec board. Mr. Brett, did you want to give us your report, please?
Yes, just a couple updates. We do have 2 meetings scheduled for tomorrow. The first meeting is on the lodge to review the current status at 1 o'clock and to go through the plans and talk about the contracts and bidding on the different elements of the lodge, both exterior and interior, and then to give an update on the construction on the roof and the HVAC, and a schedule will come out of that. The second meeting will be at 2:30 on the band shell, and there's some information included with some projected costs from the vendor. We do have their contractor coming tomorrow, as well as the vendor to meet with the folks for the band shell to make sure that we determine what they're providing, and then anything that has to be put out to bid. Because a long lead item is, of course, ordering the structure and getting it here. So that meeting will be at 2:30, and then I'll get a report out by the end of the week on both those meetings for an update for the next meetings. Everybody can see what come out of those. So, and then the bird sanctuary, I had thought we got a quote in, and I did not see anything come in. We have reached out to 4 contractors. We're gonna maybe try to have a field meeting with some of the contractors to see if we can get some interest in this. Timing's everything on these, so we got to get into somebody's sweet spot with the schedule to see if we can get a bid. So,
Right?
President Erbaldinger?
I think we actually did get a quote, and like Steve Moore sent us an email. I think it was sent to LSSE and Steve. So I think we do have a quote. It said like 30 something thousand, like low 30s.
oh, okay. If you could re-forward that, Steve, it might have got grabbed by my filter. Sometimes that happens if it has an attachment and I just miss it because it gets quarantined and I don't know what it is. So, so Steve, if we did get one in, if you could forward that, that would be great. And then I can look at it. It may be one of those things, if we got the quote, put it in your budget for split between 23 and 24, because I think you had 8,000 in the budget in 23, and you could fund the rest of it then in 24. So potentially, so.
Okay, and also, I wanted to point out that at the back of this, Mr. Morris, would you please be able to show the preliminary drawing that is for the band shell? It was included with the agenda.
Or,
I think it's one of the last few pages there.
Yeah, they gave 2 different options. One is an octagon, which I believe is the one everybody likes. The other one was just an option they wanted to show us, which was just a slanted roof. And that's part of what tomorrow we want to kind of lay that out in the field to make sure what everybody wants. So, and it would be elevated 2 feet off the ground with 4 steps going up to it.
is
Does
this the one
anyone
you
have
want?
any comments?
Yes. Is there a ADA compliant ramp that's going to go with that in addition
Yeah.
to that's
Yeah, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if yet if it makes sense to do it out of concrete or a paved trail. I kind of want to walk that tomorrow, and I've done it both ways to where we brought a ramp up around the back of it at grade, and or brought a ramp on the side. So I want to look at that in the field and see what everybody thinks, which way is best to do it. But since it's only 2 feet, it's not a real long ramp. So we'll be able to do it, with millings or something like that if we needed to, and then just to build that up. So I think we need to look at that tomorrow, but I've done it both ways. I just like to hear the group's opinion on what they think's best, for your use. And then the storage too. We need to bid that, and I just need to understand how big that needs to be.
Does anyone have any comments about the drawings? Okay, well, it looks like everybody, Mayor Porco?
Just so that everybody understands, the spirit of the drawings is to make sure that the look and feel of the band shell kind of ties in with the look and feel of the existing borough building, and ultimately what will be the look and feel, I guess, of the renovated rec center, right? The goal is to over time kind of slowly turn that into like a large campus setting where everything kind of looks fairly uniform and standardized and ties in together.
Yeah, the structure itself is going to be a metal frame with the wood between it. And that's what we want to talk about tomorrow to make sure everybody's good with that look. And then the front of the stage would be stamped concrete, and then we would paint it the same color as the brick. It would be stamped to look like the brick that's on the lodge, so that the two buildings come together in that campus feel that they would match. So I think we got a good product that matches the other building. It's just these fine details I think we got to work through tomorrow with everybody and make sure we're on the same page.
Vice President DeMarco, your hand's up.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. The engineering cost and the cost of this amphitheater will be coming out of the Forest Hills Community Alliance budget. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a separate number set up for
Thank you.
this that goes to the Alliance.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Mr. Brett, I had some questions then about the Westinghouse Lodge. I know we're having the meeting tomorrow, but specifically with K, the site work. Now, we already have the grill estimate, is that correct? And I believe you approved that. It was a few months back.
Yeah, I did see the grill estimate coming in. I wasn't sure how you were installing that. That there was a price that was gotten, I think, by Parks, if I remember right. But there was no discussion. I can put that on the list for tomorrow to discuss some of those things that you've got pricing on. I'm not sure how it's getting installed, but if we need a contractor to do that, we can do that.
Well, I believe there was a contractor that was a CoStars that had a price.
Okay.
Yeah, because we want to get on that. Now, the new pavilion would also, perhaps we could talk with the people installing the roof so that we have that same look that Mayor Porco had talked about. We don't want to have the shake shingles, and we want it the same kind of the way the new mansard's going to look, kind of.
Yep.
Okay. And also, like the site restoration, I wasn't sure if that includes the playground with the pad underneath that we had briefly discussed. I may have sent that to you in an email.
I'll have to look at that one. So I'll put those on the list for tomorrow and we can work through those.
Okay, great. let's see. Okay, then, did anyone else have any comments before I move on to Mr. Thielacker? Thank you, Mr. Brett. Okay, foreman report, please, Mr. Thielacker.
You're on mute, Mr. Thielacker.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that. I just had two things. I don't, for some reason, it's not on my page here. I can't find it. But anyway, if I can remember what's supposed to be on there is that we had a tree fall in the dog park up there. A tree company's coming in because it's hung up in another tree. They're actually going to remove all the dead trees and get them on the ground, and then we're gonna get them out of there, and we're gonna refix all the mulch up on the dog park area.
Mr. Thielacker, I had a question on that, and there's also something else on the agenda, but first, Mr. Watkins, you had your hand up? Never mind. Okay. Well, if we have Crespers coming in to take the trees down and we're paying them, what is Public Works going to actually do then?
What happened is I was up there with Don when he talked to Doug Crisper, and he's holding his price that he had given us last year to come in and take these down. And the agreement was that he was just going to drop them on the ground, and then we're going to drag them out of the dog park area to get them out. He's not going to do that part of it.
Well, what's going to happen to them? How do they get disposed of?
They're going to cut them in, like, I think 10-foot lengths, and then we're going to pick them up and set them on the truck, and then we're going to take them up to probably behind the Westinghouse wreck up there. We're not going to push them over the hill or anything, and then later on we'll do whatever with them.
Okay, and then the Avenue L playground, there's an update for us.
Yes, all the equipment came in that was the wrong size came in. The guys were over there. Everything has been fitted together. The slides are not on yet. Actually, tomorrow, if everything goes right, we're going to level everything up. And then weather permitting, we're going to start cementing everything in place, all the posts and everything. And then we'll do the grounds around it, put new wood carpet around, and it'll be finished.
Well, a question. So initially, I thought they didn't include parts, and then now they sent the wrong parts. Is that it?
Yes. Yeah, because we thought we had a couple parts missing, but we ended up finding them. But we had probably about 10 parts that were the wrong size, and they have shipped us all the right parts. And like I said, we put them on today, actually.
Well, I appreciate, I know when we talked about this company before, you indicated that they were the lowest bid, but sometimes you get what you pay for. So if they're sending us the wrong parts, I mean, maybe it's better to look at something that is a little more expensive. Also, what's the update then on the Ardmore Boulevard planters?
That's going to be our next project after we get done with Avenue L. I don't have an exact time frame, I'm not sure, because we get some emergencies in between this stuff, and sometimes it backs us up a little bit. I hope within 2 weeks here we're going to be out there starting. It could be sooner.
Thank you, Mr. Thielacker. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Bioki?
Yes, thank you. I have some concerns about the tree removal plan. We're talking about moving large pieces of lumber, having our crew stack them on trucks. There's all sorts of possibilities for getting hurt. Plus, there's a issue about storing this wood behind Westinghouse Lodge. It'll probably be there for years. And I think that's a problem. Also, the fence was damaged in when the tree fell. So what's the plan for that?
Soon as we get the tree off of the fence and we get all the trees out of there, I already saw the fence was damaged and I'm gonna be making a phone call. I didn't want to bring the contractor in because it's too dangerous for him to look at it right now.
And that brings us to one other point too. We have a lot of old trees that are in our parks. I think, and I may be skipping to another committee here, but I think we need to get an arborist to come in and take a look at the trees that are going to be in the areas where people are gathering, to make sure that we're not going to have other trees that are going to be falling unexpectedly.
Mr. Morris, you had your hand up first.
Go ahead and let me be last.
Okay, Vice President DeMarco?
I just wanted to follow up on what Angelo just said. I have walked in the park trails a good bit in the last little while, and there is a lot of standing dead trees in our parks, many of them overhanging the trails, partly because of drought conditions and partly because of undergrowth damage by overrunning deer. I am concerned that we have an arborist look at our tree canopy in our parks for at least hazard detection at some point. And there is a member of the Bartlett Tree Service who's a resident who would be interested in helping us do that as a citizen. I think it would be helpful if we would avail ourselves of some kind of expertise to give advice on the maintenance of the park. Park trees, the whole canopy. It's a mature canopy and there's issues that, you know, may have health and safety implications ongoing.
I believe Mr. Morris sent that information on to Mr. Branzel, the contact, but I'm not sure. Mr. Morris, can you comment on that?
Yeah, I did send it to Dawn.
Okay.
And you had another comment, please?
Well, this is just going back to something that was said about the playground equipment. I just want to make sure we clarify when, I'm not sure if it applies necessarily in the case of playground equipment, but whenever you're bidding a project, you're required to take the lowest responsible bid. You can't just say, unless you, if you know there's something wrong with that person, that company, whatever, you can ignore them, but you're otherwise required to take the lowest responsible bid. So I just
I
wanna make sure I'm
understand
clear
that, but my
with
point
that.
was we're getting the wrong parts being sent with this equipment. My understanding was also that the seller was supposed to come and help with the installation. I don't believe they ever came through with that, and that's why I brought that up.
Okay.
But
I
thank
just
you for
wanna-
our reminder, Mr. Morris.
Okay, fine.
Oh, any other comments before we move on then to the committee business? Okay, thank you. Well, the first, we already touched on the deck estimate for the Bird and Wildlife Sanctuary. We do have that one and it will be forwarded on to Mr. Brett. We did get to look at the Forest Hills Band Shell, and that will be discussed tomorrow. Now, Mr. DeGioia had, Steve, would you be able to share that? He sent an email late and it has the cost for the steps that we've been working on in the grant.
I didn't see that email. I don't have access to my email here right now.
Okay, let
When did
me
he
see
s-
if I wrote anything down here. Okay, so what it was is the crazy steps. There's supposed to be 3 different streets, Avenue B, Woodside, and then I believe Avenue A. There was some different pricing. Now, one of the questions I had, there were flat rates for the steps themselves, which totaled $726,756. But then there were other pricing that included something like with escalation. I'm not sure what that meant. But that with the sidewalks was going to be taking us well up into $900,000. Vice President DeMarco, what is that, the total of that grant?
I think it's $726,000.
Okay, so at this stage, what would fully cover that would be covered by the grant? And remember, there's an additional 60,000 from the Joya for cost to look at this. So the 726 for the steps is the covered with our grant. And then there's an additional cost, I believe, with Mr. DeJoya. Mr. Morris, you have a comment? I'm sorry, you're muted.
I think I can get this on screen now.
Oh, thank you. That would be great if we could look.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
here
sure
we
why
go.
I'm not sure why it's black and white, but maybe because
That's
I'm black
fine.
and white.
If you could scroll down, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh.
Oh, there we
Oops.
go.
Let
Okay,
me s-
yeah.
Let me start again here. Wait, where are we?
Right.
Okay, so here, Avenue B. Okay,
Mhm.
and then you want to keep going?
Yeah, I wanted to get where there's pricing listed there.
Okay,
Yeah, like for here. Okay, now we're looking at Avenue B. Now you see there's with escalation, there's an additional roughly 14,000. And I don't know what that means. Do you have any idea, Vice President DeMarco?
I do. Between the time we did the grant, when they did the cost estimation, and the current time, there has been about a $14,000 increase in the
Oh,
cost of the materials. The additional sidewalk was not in the original grant, and it says coordination with PennDOT. That was because when we looked at the situation, remember we had a pedestrian incident on people crossing Ardmore Boulevard at the bottom of those steps, even though the steps are not safe and are cordoned off. There was an issue where the sidewalk is not present along Ardmore Boulevard, and that's a DOT right-of-way. So we were trying to inquire whether DOT could be asked to put in a sidewalk along the edge of Ardmore Boulevard, going from the park and ride to the crosswalk, the pedestrian crosswalk that goes into the PNC parking lot and the Aldi parking lot, where there's a formal pedestrian crossing with a stoplight. I don't know whether, if DOT declines to fund that sidewalk, the question emerges whether we should delete possibly the Arnold or the Woodside stair repairs until we get a sidewalk into that place, which is currently used in a dangerous situation. So I guess that's the question. In any case, I think they are looking at putting in a prefab replacement metal steps in the Avenue B location that would be, just put in to replace the ones that are there that are currently dangerous. And
okay, I see a couple of hands up. Vice
okay.
President Erbaldinger, I'm sorry, President Erbaldinger. Sorry. I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure if we can, we got a grant for 3 steps.
Yep.
And all of them are important, like high school, like Woodside is important for high school, Avenue B is important, and the other one I don't know for sure. But I don't think we can just change the scope of a grant like that. If we ask for 3 steps, I think we need to do 3 steps, or not like $170,000 sidewalk.
Mr. Morris, your hand is up.
Yeah, this may be a stupid question, I don't know, but so there, why would PennDOT allow you to put a sidewalk there when you're talking about, if I'm seeing this right, crossing across the median? Would they even allow a crosswalk there?
No, the sidewalk would go along the wall, connecting a walking area, which is currently just grass, from the corner where the park and ride is to the corner where the PNC crosswalk is, all on the same side
Oh,
of
the
the
whole,
street.
okay, the whole side,
Yeah,
all right. okay.
Yeah, and I don't think that we can put that in the grant. You're right. It would be something additional, but we would have to negotiate with DOT about that. You're right that, the grant covered 3 stairways and, we need to get this in motion because Jay Costa wants a ribbon cutting sometime soon. And, I would like to see if we can't get at least one of these in motion before the end of the year.
Okay, could we see the next slide, please, Mr. Morris? Okay, here we have the Woodside Road.
Yeah.
Okay, I see now the escalation, so the price has gone up.
Yeah, but not a lot though.
Well, let me recalculate. Okay, does anyone have any questions here?
How much? No. Yeah, I mean, that's like an important, sorry, I didn't raise my hand. It's an important shortcut for Woodland Hills High School students. All from the,
Oh, yes. Then, let me see. Okay, and then could we see the last one then, please, Mr. Morris? Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, the Forest Hills Park. Okay, so with the escalation, this now goes up to $777,629. That doesn't include the sidewalk. So that's about a difference of what? 50,000 that we would have to add to this?
Yeah.
That's minus the sidewalks. Does anyone have any comment? President Erbaldinger.
if you look at that, there's like a shortcut from, I think it's Sharon to Arnold. Maybe we can just skip that little bit and then we should be back in the money. Do the big part, which where the paddle ball courts are, and then that short one from Sharon to Arnold, we can maybe skip or table it until like later. And then we should be back in the money, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So you would like to continue with the 3 steps as
What-
is?
The
And
2
if-
steps, 2 steps,
2 steps?
Avenue
No.
B, Woodside, and delete Arnold. in
No,
order
no,
to
no,
bring
no. I didn't mean, do you see the big pink line? It goes from Fillmore to Sharon and then from Sharon to Arnold. I think if we skip the last little bit, we should be back in the money, back
Sorry,
to the low 700.
So you mean we're going to do less of that?
Yes, where the mouse is right now. That little bit, maybe we skip that and then we should be back on the money. But the 255 would be a little bit less.
Would you be able to talk with Mr. DeGioia about that then,
Who?
Vice President DeMarco?
I'll talk to him about it. Yep. Can we suggest that they go forward with the other part that isn't in dispute so that we can get this in motion?
Yes.
Okay.
At Avenue B and Woodside, yeah.
Mhm.
And that Arnold, we try to keep adjusting.
Any other comments on this then?
No.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to move on to the dumpster that's at the pool. And actually, I'd like to bring up the ones that are at the Westinghouse Lodge, rec center in the back. What I've seen down at the pool within the last couple of weeks are 2 people not affiliated with the borough putting garbage in these. There's one that's unlocked at the pool. One guy was throwing in a bed frame, a table, a couple of lamps, Then another man walked up with something. He was throwing bags of garbage in there. Is there any way we can get a locking device on both here and the Westinghouse Lodge dumpsters? Because they're not for public use, but people are taking advantage of that. Mayor Porco, your hand is up.
So at one point, we actually had locking devices, excuse me, on the dumpsters at the pool.
I think there's one that's locked. The one is, but the other side isn't.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, the short answer is that they sell them. It's just a question of, I thought that they both sides had it on unless we took it off and never replaced it again.
One dumpster has the locking device, but the other one, it's open like from two different sides. And that's where the guy was throwing the bed frame in. And then I understand also at the Westinghouse Lodge, Mr. Reamer, aren't there people going there and putting trash in?
Yep.
Could we also get something on that? Is that, how do we work? Is that something through waste management, or do we put the lock on? Does anyone know?
Well, I mean, I know I can't speak to the one at the pool. That's probably a Jimmy question, but the one at Westinghouse is inside a fence. We can lock that fence. We would just have to make sure that it's open. Now, obviously, as we know, it's not an issue between now and June 1st. But we can simply lock it at this point and lock the gates. Then they don't have access to any of that.
Well, you had mentioned for the pool, is there that people that rent the pool have to take their trash out to there? Is that right?
Correct. They take their trash out at the end of the evening and throw it in the dumpster. So we'd have to have a way that they could access it on nights of rentals. And a lot of our rentals are moving there now that Westinghouse is closed up.
Well, I wonder if there's something like a combination that could be put on there that the renters could have, and just throwing it out there. Mr. Thielacker, your hand is up.
Yeah, the dumpster that's locked up at the pool lodge parking lot, that's the recycling dumpster. It has a locking bar on it. The other one has those lids on it, but that would be a waste management thing. We can get Allison to call and find out if I think they can put locking bars across, but like Walt said, you'd have to have a key access so they could unlock it to throw their garbage in, the renters.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Any other comment on that?
That's correct.
Mr. Lawrence?
Correct. Allison could check and maybe then work with Walt to see what waste management can do and what could be feasible given the need to access that every day. Maybe she could talk to Walt about that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Lawrence. I wanted to talk about the Deer Management public meeting. This was scheduled on September 18th in the council chambers in the community room. Just to let you know, 30 people signed up, but about 25 came. We didn't realize when we scheduled that date that it was a Steeler game, but we think that's where the other 5 people may have went. But anyway, it was a very nice meeting. Chief Williams explained how the deer archery program is going. The Department of Agriculture Wildlife Services speakers were there. We had a discussion about the herd, how to get a permit, what requirements Forest Hills has to meet, and some other different questions that were thrown out to the to the speakers. I don't mean eliminated. Residents were asked to submit questions online, as well as there were written questions accepted during the meeting. There is a video that has been posted on the borough website for anyone that was unable to attend that meeting. But from that, both the chief of police and public works are now recording any deer they pick up. We need to have that information for the Game Commission. And Chief Williams has put a notice out on Savvy Citizen calling for archery hunters. So anyone have any questions on that? Thank you. Okay, the operating of unauthorized equipment on roadways. We had a call that there was someone was driving one of the large lawnmowers down on Atlantic Avenue. It was not on any type of vehicle hauling it there. I do believe Mr. Corbel said that shouldn't happen. So if you could talk to Public Works, Mr. Thielacker, I'd really appreciate that.
Sure, I will.
Thank you so much. The next two, the managed IT services recommendation, as well as the facility rental software recommendation. I'm going to hand that over to Mr. Bioki.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Ms. Martin and I both reviewed a number of managed service providers. I sent an email out to everyone earlier in the day going over what our criteria was and what we were hoping to accomplish. Based on that, we have arrived at an opinion that there is one company that closely matches what our needs are and is reasonably priced, and that's a company called Consensus Technologies. I'll just open it up if anyone has any additional questions or comments about that.
Mr. Bioki, would you let everyone know how many companies actually submitted bids?
We had a total of 5 5 proposals, not bids, but and we also had in person and over the phone interviews with those folks so that we could get to the bottom of what we really needed to do and you know, what our environment was like, so they get a better understanding of that. So, I mean, like I said, after reviewing all that information, this is there was the one company that seemed to be the best fit for what we needed. And so, considering where we're at right now, we really don't have a service provider that's you know, actually full-time for us, and we do have some issues with our safety and security of our digital assets. So we really need to move forward as soon as possible.
Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the cost estimate that Mr. Bioki sent?
Yeah, I did.
Unless there's any other, do you have questions on that, anyone, or Mr. Lawrence?
No, I'd just like to add, one, I think you guys are recognizing our vulnerabilities at present, given the risks to our data. And I think moving ahead with that managed service provider like this is a very good idea. We're going to spend a little bit more money, but given the damage that could happen, if things in our data is not handled well, it's going to be far more expensive than what we're putting in. And I did look over, and it looks like you picked a good provider that will be appropriate to what we need. So I'm all in favor of this decision.
President Erbaldinger?
Does that package include, like, you know, most companies nowadays, they have like training sessions, like online training sessions for their employee, how to get hacked, how to get spammed, how to prevent it, and all that stuff, how to detect bad emails. Does it include something like that for our employees, like a monthly 10-minute class?
Well, yeah, not monthly, but they do have some training, and that's important for our the insurance policy that we have for you know, cyber threats. So so yeah, that would be part of it. And the other thing that they will be doing is there's a lot of proactive monitoring of all of our systems.
Mayor Porco, your hand is up.
Yeah, just a couple of quick questions, Angelo. Just, did they walk us through what their cutover and fail and redundancy plan is in the event that like they should suffer some sort of a crash within their data systems or whatnot?
Well, we are not actually linked into any of their data systems. I mean, what they're doing is they would be putting agents on our systems, on the laptops that are active, to monitor it proactively to make sure that there's no pending threats. And there's another agent that they use, which is like an antivirus as well, that in the event that they noticed anything, they would immediately shut down that system that was compromised and do a repair of that system. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but they wouldn't be storing any of our data, if that's what you were asking.
Yeah, that was my ask, actually. That's okay. So we're going to be responsible for maintaining our own server still and
No.
No.
okay,
No.
so
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I didn't want to get into too many details, but the servers that we have right now are primarily file shares that we're using. The one server should be decommissioned. It's the old server. It has data on it, which is a risk in and of itself. It has the old data that was transferred to the new server. But in the new environment, our plan is to move everyone to Office 365. That includes having SharePoint and OneDrive availability. Those things then would be backed up in the cloud. And there would be some training and assistance to the users as we're doing that migration.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, if there's no objections, then I would like to move forward with this then to be put into the business meeting for a vote.
I'll do that.
Thank you. And then the rental software, Mr. Bioki.
Yes, that's another one that we were looking at. As you know from our last meeting, we parted ways with Brightly Software on the events management software that they had. They had promised us that it could do what we were looking to do with the rentals, and that didn't happen. So we started looking at some other systems, and we looked at several. One is called Cogrin, and it does everything from soup to nuts that you would want to do with renting a facility. They also have a point of sale system associated with that. So everything would be integrated, doing memberships and so forth. So this is the, and actually the monthly cost plus the onboarding would wind up costing us slightly less than what we would have paid with, had we stayed with the Brightly software. Any questions about that?
I want to thank you for all your effort in contacting different companies and really stepping up to the plate on this one.
And I thank you as well, Angelo. Great job. Fantastic.
Well, then, if there's no questions or concerns, then I would ask that this also gets put on for approval at the business meeting, Mr. Morris.
Sure, I just will need to get some detail from Mr. Bioki so I know exactly costs and everything, but yes, not a problem.
Okay, thank you. Sorry it's taken so long. Here's the last item for borough property. The salt storage building roof. There was a solar meeting with Siemens today, and apparently the cost savings we have accrued at the borough is $28,000. So they looked into the cost of the chlorine vent fan. That's 14,000. And so we will be getting that, which was, I don't know if that was on the capital plan or not, but that's going to be covered, as well as the shed for the salt shed, the roof. They have an estimate for $9,500. We didn't want to put solar panels on a 20-year-old roof, so they will be able to do that as well. All we need to know is shingles or metal. Mr. Thielacker suggests shingles. With the salt, there could be some erosion, I guess. Does anyone have any comments on that?
Is there,
Vice President DeMarco?
is there a cost difference in the shingles versus metal roof, or are they pretty much equivalent?
You know, I spoke with S&N about this before, Sarah, and
Mhm.
she said it's pretty much the same now.
Okay.
And lastly, just on a wish list, something that was requested for the Capitol was a shower for the Public Works garage, which I think is certainly needed, and they may be able to fund that as well.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to end with some good news,
Yeah.
and I thank you. If there's nothing else, that's the end of borough property.
Can I add one thing, please?
Sure, please.
This project with the energy upgrades in the borough
Mhm.
is going to be incorporated into the EOS Energy Community Benefit Plan. And what they will be doing will be adding a battery or maybe two to the borough operations, so that we will have 100% backup for our solar installations, and will be the backbone of our microgrid system in the business district. So we will be having a meeting with Siemens, with EIS Solar, with our people, and with Elizabeth Cook from Duquesne Light sometime in the next month to work out the details of this. This won't happen until after our solar is installed, which I understand will be sometime April, May next year. So
Thank
this is
you
a
for
very
that.
exciting project, very, very exciting project.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of borough property.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Public Works then, I guess, if that's okay with everybody. Any issues there? No? Okay. Public Works. Mr. Watkins, is it okay to start?
Yes, let's start.
Okay, again, I have an updated summary of all projects attached to this committee. If you want me to show it on the screen, I can do that. Basically, everything that's highlighted in yellow on that list are part of the vehicle equipment spreadsheet, and I sent that out separately to everybody in an email today. You can take a look at that, but that all that stuff on that spreadsheet translated back up into Public Works. And
Mr.
that's all-
Morse?
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but could you put that on the screen so everybody could get a chance to see it?
Sure. This is the Public Works capital plan budget. And the spreadsheet I was referring to, whoops, is not on here for some reason. Oh, there it is. That's the spreadsheet that shows all the wheeled equipment. This is just a draft of it. I give you a little bit better, a little bit neater, with a couple of notes and things like that on it in the final session. For some reason, this will not let me go back. There we go. Committee. That's the actual capital improvements stuff that will show in the plan. Once again, this is all information that would be passed on to finance if you agree with it, or if you want to make changes, you can make changes in that or make recommendations to them for something else. I'm not going to repeat everything I already said. I don't want to make this longer than I have to. But that's what would happen if there's no problems with this. It would go on to the finance committee at their next meeting.
Are there any questions or any problems with this spreadsheet? Council? I guess we can proceed, Mr. Morris.
Okay, great. So I will move that to finance. The second outstanding items, pending items, I don't really have much of an update on street sweeping. Jimmy is right now looking at several companies in between other jobs that he is doing. But Sewer Vector is moving forward as long as it's okay with you folks. Wilkins is actively working on it, and they in fact provided a draft of a new intergovernmental cooperation agreement, which I sent over to Mr. Corbel to take a look at, and I assume he can report on that next Tuesday. Wilkins, though, they drafted that and an ordinance to approve the agreement. Our draft would be different as far as an ordinance is concerned. But in any case, it would essentially have the same thing where we're sharing this piece of equipment 50-50. They're looking at people they usually use for quotes. We looked at the new finance bank that is in town now, Univest. We've already done one thing with them. And Allison had asked them for 2 separate quotes. The first one you see there estimated the full amount of the cost of the truck, $456,000 plus. With interest, if we borrowed that money from them, that would be $35,000 plus. Now that is split between both us and Wilkins. Allison, though, looked at the corrective action budget money and believes that for our share, which would be $232,000 plus, we could pay it outright from corrective action and not have to pay any interest at all. And then Wilkins could finance their share as they wish. What I'm asking for, I guess, is 2 things. Well, I'd like to make sure that Mr. Corbel can approve the intergovernmental cooperation agreement so you guys could see it, and also then consider it for approval. However, it needs to be approved via an ordinance or what have you. And then that we would work out with Wilkins the cost, the share cost of this equipment. And again, with the suggestion that we should be able to afford to do it by paying out our share from the corrective action monies. That's where we would be paying from it anyway. That's how we would be paying it off anyway. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? Angela, Mr. Baroki?
Yes, Mr. Morris, I just had a question about the street sweeper. There was Mr. Thielacker was supposed to take a look at the one that's been in operation. I believe it's out in North Huntington. I believe. Was that ever done?
Jim?
The salesman was on vacation for a couple of weeks, and I think he just came back this week. So I got to get back in touch with him, Angelo, and then we're going to set up and go out and look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, getting back to the Vector, I'd like to see us move forward with this if you're okay with it, because we are going to need this. And I assume you're okay still with continuing the share with Wilkins. Does anybody have any problems, objections, or whatever? Because I'm going to ask Mr. Corbel to talk about this next week, and then I would put it on the a meeting in October if possible, or November for it to be considered for approval. No, are there any problems with that?
Let's move forward with this, please.
Okay. There's no other questions or comments. I'm gonna go on to I'm sorry, wait a minute, I want to make my note. The third item I have, Three Rivers Wet Weather did provide us with an update this month, and it is involving meetings that they're going to be holding for elected officials on the Phase 2 consent order and agreement. The closest one to us is going to be at Churchill Borough Building on October 26th at 7 p.m. I would encourage you folks to attend. I go to various meetings. I know Mr. Brett attends, but you're going to be making decisions on these things in the future. If one at least of you can go to report back to council, that would be a good idea. It wouldn't hurt for more than one to go though too. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that, because there's a lot of things, a lot of information that they can provide for you and answer questions. Does anybody have any questions for me on that? Okay, I'm done with my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. Next, from Public Works, we have, gosh, I had that lined up. We have the foreman and the engineers report. We'll start with the engineers report. Mr. Brett, are you available?
Yes, good evening again. Yeah, quick update on the various projects. The road projects completed. They're down to a few punch list items. The same with the drainage project on Forest Hills Road. So those projects are nearing completion. And then Watt Lane Headwall project, they've been working as well. And getting that pipe in the end wall installed. Probably going to go take a look at it tomorrow. I do know they were working on it and had to install additional 10 feet of pipe to get to a better place in the field. So there was a slight additional cost for that, but we did recommend doing that because where it was proposed to end wouldn't have probably lasted real long. So the park and ride project, I'm still trying to get documents on it. We haven't been involved with that project, but I don't think Glenn is actively doing anything with it. So we're going to have to, I believe, assist trying to get that project figured out. And I think you have a special counsel on that, talking to Steve. So I'm going to have to talk to them and see what the details were, because I don't have much on that.
Okay.
Last item was the or last couple items, the GIS system. We did look at the data. You do have a lot of data that we got transferred over from Glenn. We still have to take a look at Steve's, what's in the borough system. And then we're going to work to get your ArcGIS online account set up so that everybody can use that data in the borough. We talked last month about the 2024 road review and priority rating. We did send a draft over. Jimmy's reviewing that. That'll be useful for this budget as well as future budgets. He and I is going to discuss the priority roads for next year and try to get those listed in the budget itself. Idea would be to try to get notices out to utilities at the end of the year on the roads that you would like to pave, and then have bids open in early April so that you get the best pricing that you can get. We find April and May are your two best months for pricing on the road paving projects. Did provide a cost for the main park outfall that was requested, and we are currently reviewing the various projects and budgets that Steve's putting together. We'll have that out by the end of the week for consideration at your finance committee meeting. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a
Mr. Brett.
question, Mr. Watkins.
Yes, Ms. Martin.
Thank you. This is for Mr. Brett. I took a walk over the weekend and I looked at the Watt Lane project. That's a lot of stuff going on there. It really looks like a lot of hard work. I did have a couple of questions though. The road that goes down from Braddock Road, it looks like there's, before where there was the huge big pile of cinders, that's now mud. Will there be stone or anything put there?
Let me take a look at that with Jimmy tomorrow and confirm what the restoration is on the plans.
And additionally, will there be a gate or something there so no one's tempted to drive down there or make an accidental drive down there?
We'll look at that as well.
The last thing with that is there are some steps to the right of it, which now are blocked off. There's like some kind of plastic for that. Those steps really don't go anywhere anymore. Will we be closing those steps then for safety?
I would recommend it if that's the case.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Thank you. That's all my questions are.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. DeMarco, I believe your hand is up next. You're muted. Ms. DeMarco.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Mr. Brett, about the LSA grant for the end wall and riprap installation. What is the timing for that grant application, and are we in the cycle to be able to do that?
Yes, the grant applications are due at the end of November. So at next month's meeting, for the committee meeting, we'll have resolutions ready for the LSA grants. I'm going to have a note in my budget items, and I'm going to look at your capital budget too. I'm going to highlight the various grants that you may want to consider in the finance committee applying for, and to try to help everybody out. If you have projects over the next 5 years, LSA would take about a year to get the money. So you're actually spending for LSA money 2025 budget cycle. So I think that may be helpful. So Josh and I is going to take a look at that, and then so council can consider what you want to apply for over the next year.
Okay, thank you. That would be helpful. I appreciate it. And can you bring that to finance next week, or will that be too soon?
Yeah, we're going to have it out this week. I'm working on the numbers now. I have some of the numbers in our report, but we will have it on one table, and then finance can put it into the budget in the appropriate committees as you see fit.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Mr. Bayoki, I believe you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Watkins. This is for Mr. Brett. On the Forest Hills Road project, were you able to reconcile the difference between what was the work that was done and the remainder of that road that goes to the intersection with Cherry Valley?
Yeah, we did look at what they had on the plans versus what the contractor did. And when they were laying everything out, we actually picked the spots that was the best transition. What was on the plans, the transitions weren't going to work well. They didn't make sense. So on both ends, there was adjustments made so it transitioned better into those other roadways. In both cases, it was kind of shortened up to right after the catch basins. So there would be less disturbance on the other roads. So they did do what we marked in the field. We had walked that originally and come up with, okay, there was a couple things in the road on one end and the other end. So, but when we do future projects, we will do some work in both intersections in order to blend them in better. So.
Okay, yeah, because the way it looks right now, it looks like it's unfinished. And I just wanted to make sure that with all the work that was done, that we still didn't have a problem with flooding.
Yeah, I think all the drainage, everything is appropriate for the way it's done right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Brett, does that conclude all your comments?
Oh, yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, then next we have the foreman's report. Mr. Thielacker, are Are you available? You're muted.
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, I got my foreman's report, the list of projects that's going to be going on for October. And then also we have a list there of the projects that we completed during September. If anybody has any questions, please ask. Item number 2, we'd like authorization to advertise our 1996 truck number 75 International once we receive our new one, which hopefully should come sometime the beginning of November. And also there's some items that were public works items that we may be able to get some money for that were in the basement of the Westinghouse Rec. We'd also like to advertise those on municipal bid also. So we need you guys to vote on that at the October meeting.
Mr. Morris, can we put those 2 items up on the October meeting?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. If there are no other questions, that concludes our public works.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get my stuff saved here. Public safety, okay. I'm good with public safety, Mr. Baroki, if you're okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Again, all I have, I guess I should put this up too, is the I'm sorry, the items that were submitted to the committee for consideration under the capital improvements plan. And I'm trying to get that on my screen so you can all take a look at it. Okay, there we go, I think, I hope. Yes, these are the items that were submitted from the fire department and the police department. Again, the blue is something that was submitted after the last meeting, but you did get the project detail in an email. And then the pink stuff is stuff that has not necessarily been spent this year. Although actually now that I look at it, the speed trailer, I guess, was completed. I forgot to take that pink off of that. So I'm not sure if any of that needs to continue or not. But again, I need the committee's recommendation as far as whether or not that can go to Finance Committee or if you have any discussion on it.
Yeah, there, unless the chief has some other comment, the speed trailer has been purchased, so there shouldn't be a need to carry that on.
Right.
That's correct, yeah.
I'll take that off. Anybody else have any comments? If not, can that move on to Finance Committee then, Mr. Baroki? Is that all right, or?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, that's all I have to report then.
Okay, thank you. Chief's reports next. Chief Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give you a quick statement on Hayride this Saturday. Hopefully we're going to have good weather. I'm not very confident now. Originally we had good weather scheduled, but looks like the weather people have just not cooperated with us and we may get some rain. But this event is a rain or shine event and we're going to move forward with it either way. So hopefully anybody who happens to see this, I know I just sent out another savvy to remind people about get out there. Don't forget it's 5 days away yesterday. So hopefully they'll be out with their children and their grandparents, and families will all want to go for a little ride, whether it's maybe sprinkling and a little chilly, but hopefully it'll all work out very well. I know there's been some questions about the deer situation. I can tell you that we've already had a couple of deer hit by vehicles. And I know that the Public Works Department has picked up a few of those. So that part of the season is starting. And again, we have our people in our
hunting program. I sent out a savvy on that as well to try to get people's attention to see if they want to be interested in becoming part of that. I haven't seen anything about that yet, so we'll see if somebody does decide to let us know about that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief Williams. Chief Colella is not here. He did include a report that you can read, unless Assistant Chief Thielacker has anything he'd like to comment on. Mr. Thielacker, was there anything in the fire chief's report that you needed to comment on?
No, if anybody has any questions, I might be able to answer anything, but yeah, everything looks good, what he put in there.
Okay, thank you. Next is the EMS report.
I have a comment to make for that. Next week, there is a Turtle Creek Cog meeting, like a fire meeting. And I know the chief will attend, and I think probably I will attend too. It's part of the Turtle Creek Cog. It's just the initial meeting. There's nothing, no action going to be taken. It's just a first meeting about regionalization, how to work together and stuff.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. The EMS report is attached. And now we can move on to the committee business report. I'd like Chief Williams perhaps to comment on this first item. This was about the EV vehicle that we were considering, and he may have some comments about that.
Yes, thank you. First off, as you know, there's currently an auto strike going on, which is pretty much blown up any thoughts of getting a vehicle in any quick fashion. So whether it be an electric vehicle or pretty much any other vehicle at this point, we're all backed up on that. So again, we can put an order in maybe for the Lightning F-150. We may not get it until 25 possibly. And we could also put in a bid for the Chevy Blazer, which will be a police package, basically like an Explorer. So we can do that for both vehicles and hope at some point in time we'll get one of them. We would have the possibility of getting a hybrid vehicle. Our supplier does have something like that. Still, you know, he does try to keep an eye out for us as best he can. We could get one of those for 24 possibly. There's no guarantee of that. He said he put our name on an order for one, but because he does that automatically every year for us. But that doesn't mean we're going to get that either at this point. So there's a bit of a problem in all the lines of all the police vehicles. So again, you thought the 2 years of COVID and the supply line was bad. Now this has become just as bad or even worse. So that's where we stand at this particular juncture.
So, Mr. President.
In my mind, I think, basically to put your name on the list, you pay like $1,000 or something like that, which is refundable. So I think I like your idea. Just even the Chevy Blazer is not tested yet and all that good stuff. I think it's a good idea to put us on the list for both. It doesn't mean we have to take both once we get our turn. But like you said, once we get our turn, maybe it's a Chevy Blazer that's already tested by all those police people, agencies. I think it's a good idea to put us to pay the down payment, like $1,000, whatever it is, for both, and put us on the list. And I think we should have a motion next month to do that, to authorize him to do that.
Yes, thank you. That was what our discussion revolved around, whether to do just the one or do both. And we were of the opinion that having our names on both would be the way to go. Thank you.
So we should have a motion for that next month. Oh no, in 2 weeks or whatever it is.
Yes.
My one question, I'm sorry, my one question is how are we going to handle 2024 for vehicles? I don't know if we're going to see anything, but if we have the possibility of getting one, it may be a 23. Would we be interested in doing that for 24 as a fill the gap? And that would probably be a hybrid if we could get it. I can't guarantee that either.
I mean, unless we need a replacement vehicle in 24, if we could wait, I think we would be better off waiting, in my opinion, but
I agree. We rather get 2 in 25 and then we're back in the normal rotation.
yeah, and there are some advantages on the EV, especially with the Ford 150. They do have a heat pump for the heater, and that is much more efficient. So
Sorry, I have lots to talk about EVs. And the F-150 had actually the extra power outlets. You can actually have like emergency LED floodlights to, if you have at night, you have to respond somewhere. You can put that light pole up, and then you have all the power you need for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Okay, school bus stop signs. I brought this up several times, but I did finally get a chance to go over that list. I've driven all those locations. There are a few discrepancies with what was placed and what we still need to place. I will be completing that report and then working with Mr. Fiedlacker to get those signs, the additional signs that we need placed. Next item, again, is for Chief Williams. Under animal control recommendations, at a previous meeting, we talked about the need for renewing our contract for the animal control officer, and we held up on that pending getting some additional information. That information was provided by Chief Williams, and if you care to just comment on that, about how often we actually use the animal control officer and what what the disposition is of the animals.
All right. So generally, it's a rarity where we have to actually turn over an animal, a dog, because that's all they pick up. They don't take cats. We will give them a dog occasionally, only because we feel like they may be dangerous. I mean, we have a wand, we can check them for a chip. We do our best to put information out to see if we can figure out who the dog belongs to. And, generally an aggressive, mean dog is something we're going to turn over to Hoffman's. In some cases, we find, these dogs who are just well-trained, they've been inside, their coats are clean. We're going to try to figure out who they are. And if it looks as though it's just a situation where some owner couldn't afford to keep their pet anymore, and we had that particular situation where there was a young dog left at the park up by the dog run, and that dog was trained. It was a young dog. It was clean. We put on information. The dog wasn't chipped, and what we ended up doing with that was we took it to the White Oak shelter because we knew that dog would probably be able to find another home. So again, we use Hoffman when we need to use him. Hoffman also is under a whole lot of laws that are required for all these dog enforcement people. I know that the Monroeville people generally aren't able to do anything besides what they have right now. And they've even said that Hoffman's is well within his, job limitations when it comes to dealing with these dogs. Maybe there were some bad stories about him in the past, but again, they're checked on by the state. They have requirements they have to fulfill. So I'm very comfortable with them, and they do come out when we call them, and that could be on a Saturday, that could be at midnight, whatever. I mean, sometimes we hold dogs for a temporary period in our building, and again, we are able to hold them long enough for them to come and pick them up, and they'll take them. And again, a lot of them, he does try to find homes for them in some cases. And again, in some cases, some dogs, some things have to happen if they have issues. Unfortunately, that does go that way. I'm sure every dog catcher or manager has to deal with those problems. So for the most part, we're very fortunate. We don't really use Hoffman's that many times for the mean dogs. We don't have quite as many of those, thank goodness. And a lot of the dogs we deal with are, able to be found, and their owners are generally local. So that's all I have for that.
Thank you, Chief Williams. And I'd like to concur that I also did some independent checking around, and Hoffman has changed over the years, and they are under other guidelines that they have to follow. I did talk to a gentleman from the Monroeville Animal Control. They weren't taking on any other business. So because they were a potential alternate, but they also concurred that if we continue with Hoffman, that we would be, should be satisfied with the work that they would have to be doing under the guidelines that they're under. So if we could put this up for a vote for next meeting to use those or get the contract renewed, that would be great. Okay. Let's see, we got here. Next item is the changes to the speed limits throughout the borough. You may or may not recall that we had a study done by McMahon at the time, and looked at all the speed limits throughout the borough. And they came back with recommendations on moving the speed limits to 20 miles per hour where they were 25, and 15 in most of the cases that were already existing, and perhaps with one or two exceptions, dropping the speed limits down to 15 in some other areas. We have not acted on putting signs out to change those signs throughout the borough, but I am going to recommend that we move forward with those changes unless there's some objection. Okay. Next is the engineering report. Mr. Brett, is there anything you can?
Yeah, just a couple updates. The Westinghouse Lodge, we had talked about the emergency lighting and things. That's going to be baked into the project. That's going to be put out to bid for the interior renovations. W&A will include that in the scope that they're designing. And then the pool lodge, they were going to review that and come up with any changes there. And last item was the traffic for your November committee meeting. We'll have those 3 items completed and ready to discuss.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Any questions on any of those? That completes our committee report.
Okay, give me a couple seconds for ops. Okay, Mr. Lawrence, I'm good to go on ops.
Okay. All right.
Okay, again, capital improvements plan summary has been provided to you. Let me pull that up for this committee just in case anybody hasn't looked at it. Wow, I know I have it here. There we go. I had it. Oh, there we are. Sorry. There is just really 3 things that are on here. The comprehensive plan update is something that is part of the planning and zoning committee, so doesn't really apply here. And GIS, I keep a note on here because it's important. Mr. Brett reported on that actually earlier, and it really is a corrective action budget item because that's where the requirement is for us to be under GIS. Not that we shouldn't anyway, but in this case, there was a specific reason for it because of the sanitary sewer stuff. The other 3 items, update of codification is important periodically because first, they maintain our code on the borough website, and second, periodically, we then have them incorporated into the code, the official code, so that all new ordinances are shown there. Office furniture and equipment is mainly from the building fund, where Ms. Martin and I have talked about furnishing the lobby again and returning the lobby the way it had been before the pandemic. The computer upgrade is just an estimate. That's pending really any information we get from the new company, but I stuck some numbers in there so there would be at least some placeholders, if not actual accurate numbers for those. So those are the main things that are there, and I just need to know if you have any comments on that.
I don't. Anyone else?
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, please.
Yes, I do have one question on the GIS software. On the existing servers that we have, there is some GIS application that's running there. But I believe earlier we were told that we were going to the online version of the ArcGIS. Is that correct?
Yeah, eventually we are. Right now, it's really only on my computer, but Mike Joseph had begun to place it on the server as well, so it could be shared. But we were still working some things out with EIS, and then of course he was retiring, and we were changing engineers, so we kind of put a hold on that. But yes, you're right. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? If nobody has any comments, my recommendation again is then that you move this on to finance if you're okay with that.
Yeah, let's go ahead with that.
Okay. Savvy Citizen, I just have an update on the number of followers. It increases at least slightly all the time. There is committee vacancy. Well, there's actually a few vacancies here and there, but another important one has recently come up because Chris Meadow, I think that's how you say her name, I'm sorry, has resigned. And so there is one opening on environmental advisory, as well as 3 alternate member openings there too. And the only other note I want to point out is that normally this goes under planning and zoning committee, but that changed recently. So I'm not sure. You guys probably need to take a look at your committee rules to see if you want to make any changes down there as to who does what. Because I think we've probably exceeded what we were doing under the old committee rules, and it'd probably be a good idea so that anybody new coming in will know exactly what the responsibilities are. And the last thing I have is the typical, well, I have outstanding items. I shouldn't mention it. Next to last, I always give you end of year reminders, both here and committee of the whole, just so you know what's coming up. I'm not going to repeat all these because I've gone through most of these before in previous committee meetings. But if anybody has any questions about any of them, let me know.
Okay.
And the last thing, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I have no question.
Okay, sorry. My throat is really dry. Apologize. Under outstanding items, I wanted to mention that the rodent baiting, thanks to Ms. Dietz, Annette Dietz in our office, we did get 2 additional quotes. I attached them for your review to take a look at. I know that they just came out, so you've only seen them just today. I don't necessarily want you to make any recommendations without having had a time to look at them. The one that I had been working with was Debug out of Greensburg, but they were not real responsive when I told them what we actually needed, not them hiring, not them going to individual houses, but working for the borough. So I don't know if they'll ever get back to me or not, but I would suggest taking a look at those 2 quotes, and then either next month, or if you want to look at it at committee of the whole, if you think that's enough time to analyze it, we can move ahead with one of them if you're good with that. I don't have anything else to report though, unless you have a question for me.
I'll just make a suggestion. Anybody else can chime in. This is not a major project, picking a vendor for this. I'd suggest that borough manager, Mr. Morris, can judge and suggest to Cal that one he thinks we should go with, and then we can get this for a vote in the end of the month. Any other suggestions?
I'm happy to do that if that's what you want. I'll try to get it
Why
done as
not?
quickly as I can. And if
Yeah.
I can, if I'm sure, I'll have a vote on the 25th. If not, it'll be in November, but we'll
Okay.
get that done.
I think that's a sensible way to handle something like that.
Okay. If anybody has any
Anything
questions
else?
when you look at it, let me know.
Okay. All set?
That's all. Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to shuffle the order here a little bit. The main thing we at least want to start talking about tonight, and we'll get this done as quickly as possible, are the 1 or 2 advisory councils reconstituting the old rec board and creating some kind of arts and culture advisory council. Very quickly, it's my understanding from recent discussions in these committee meetings that there is consensus that we're going to have 2 separate advisory councils. One, a working title might be Parks and Recreation, which is a reconstitution of some version of the old rec board. And then second, a new one called Arts and Culture or something along those lines, advisory committee. Are we okay with that decision? We can move forward. Does anybody have any comments?
Everyone is nodding.
Okay, good. I like that. Okay. So we want to look both at the rec board and the Arts and Culture Advisory Council. My suggestion is at least working titles should use the term advisory committee or advisory council, advisory committee, because it makes very clear that these groups exist to bring citizen suggestions and ideas to the council, but they are advisory and limited to that. Unfortunately, the old rec board had authority beyond that. I think we've all decided we don't want to go down that road a second time. So if we can at least tentatively use the term advisory council, stick with Parks and Recs, Arts and Culture. Looking at the new Parks and Recreation Advisory Council, just a thought. I think you're going to have to give this some thought and maybe send along ideas over the next month. The new Parks and Recreation Board Advisory Council should be providing input and thoughts about recreation and the pool, the tennis court, the sports teams, other additional parks and recreational activities that they could advise us on. Is there anything else that you think in a broad mission that they should be doing? I think the goal is primarily advising and supporting us on recreational activities in those categories. Anything else you can think of we want to add on to that?
Mr. Lawrence,
Please.
I just wanted to point out at the last Recreation Board meeting, Mr. Reamer had spoken to the rec board members and gave them some suggestions of things that could help him. And it was pretty much along the lines of what you suggested. But if they hear anything new, what people are looking for instance, someone wanted another pickleball court. Okay, no comments there, but just those types of things are what he's asking for.
Okay. If he has any written documentation, again, not specific things about, let's get rid of one pickleball court and add a basketball court. That's what the board will be there for. But in terms of a mission, anything, other wording or anything that he thinks be helpful for us to have, I'd encourage him to pass that along. Just email it to me.
Thank you.
I can call. Anybody else?
I do, yeah.
Please.
I think one of the other issues, if it is Parks and Recreation, it should be an advisory on the maintenance of the parks, the trails in the park. There has been some discussion about adding an exercise loop, things of that nature, and they should be cognizant of the fact that our parks are in need of some ongoing upgrading and maintenance and attention. Just because, as I said, the aging canopy is causing some issues that we need to attend to going forward.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea to add to the list. Anybody else have anything?
I have a comment. I think initially
Yes,
we
President.
talked about our rec director kind of chairing both of those committees, but for the sake of his time, I think I talked to a couple of people. The consensus is not to do that, that we just keep like a normal chair of the board, and they're just strictly advisory, that Walt doesn't have to attend both of those meetings every month, only if it's like maybe the rec board at the beginning of summer season, at the end of summer season, or things like that, like as needed. But he should not have to attend every single meeting, and he doesn't need to be the chair of those meetings either. I think that's like...
Yeah, I actually had that on the agenda, but let's bounce to that and then get back to the list of possible things for omission. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I thought it sounded like the best thing we should do with Mr. Reamer is, or that position, is have him function in the liaison category. He's there to give guidance about, borough policy, and he's there as a conduit for their ideas to be brought to council. But yeah, he doesn't need to be going to every meeting. That's why we have them, to work independently and bring their own ideas to us. So, anybody have any thoughts on that? Or if not, I think we should proceed with that's the intent of his role on both of these.
Sounds good.
Okay. Back to the, I keep calling the rec board, I'm sorry, Parks and Advisory Committee. Any other things? Mr. Marco's comment was a very, very good idea, and I didn't even have that down. Anybody else tonight? This is just preliminary. My goal is just to put this together and send it out in about a week after, like I say, Mr. Reamer has other ideas. If not, let's look at the Parks and Rec, the Arts and Culture Board Committee. Okay, so there is this Arts and Culture Advisory Council that we do not yet have. Ms. DeMarco, I think, has a quick summary of the groups. A group got together several times, and I believe they have a mission statement put together, and maybe she could.
Yeah,
give us a
I
quick
did.
summary of that.
I did share that with everybody. I hope you all got it. I have a one-page synopsis, basically starting with the Forest Hills Comprehensive Plan vision statement and the community engagement goals that were adopted as part of our comprehensive plan update. And those were that we expand opportunities for community engagement across all sectors, seniors, youth, families, and improve the number and nature of community activities. That's from our comprehensive plan goals. And we had, I think, a total of 3 meetings, maybe 6 people attended. And they suggested a mission for an Arts and Culture Advisory Council to be, the mission of the Arts and Culture Advisory Council shall be to ensure arts and cultural opportunities are available for all citizens of all generations. And they identified some functions, facilitating partnerships to bring arts and cultural programs to the community, organize community arts and cultural events throughout all seasons of the year, organize a diversity of events and activities, coordinate with the mayor and the recreational activities of the borough. And then they had a long list of possible activities that they were excited about and were interested in pursuing. And I handed that out if anybody wants me to read those. There are not too many.
Oh, we're good. Especially because those are the things, that's what the new, once it's formulated and members.
Yeah, they would be doing that. Right.
So, yeah.
I
did have
also-
2 questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. No, you go ahead.
I just said there are some grant funding available for this through the arts and humanities applications. I have sought advice from our colleagues in neighboring towns who have pursued this, and at least for startup, there are startup funds available for this, and I'd be willing to put one of those in motion if you're interested in pursuing this process.
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing wrong with exploring that. No, not at all.
Yeah.
On the functions, which is, I think, the key piece of this document for tonight's concern, does anybody have any ideas, add to that, or say tighten it up a little bit so it will be a little more understandable? It's fine, but it's quite broad, and it will be open to considerable interpretation as we go through the years. And I wondered if anybody had any suggestions tonight or in the next week or two about anything to add to this. Anyone?
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence, there are a number of other communities that have these programs in place, and I think it wouldn't hurt for everyone who's interested to take a look at those and pull out things that would be beneficial for our.
Okay.
We did review 5 other community ordinances, and these were the functions that we selected out of the array that we reviewed. I can give you the list of, I think I shared these with all of you at one point or another, but there were quite a few organizations that we looked at that were equivalent to ours in size and scale, and some also that were quite more elaborate. And so these seem to be things that were within the scope of our capability and were appropriate to the kinds of things that people were interested in pursuing in our community that weren't, extensive, could add to them later, but that seemed to be within the scope. We did look at 5 other ordinances from different organizations, from different communities.
Anyone else?
Mr. Lawrence, I have one comment. I just would like to
Please.
make sure that when moving forward, that the people on the committee are doing things to ensure for the safety of Forest Hills residents. I saw one of the suggested events could be a canning day or something.
With recipes, sharing recipes.
Well, it listed
A demonstration,
specifically
yeah.
canning.
Yeah.
And unless you have a master canner teaching the class, we really shouldn't be doing something like that.
Yeah, no, this would obviously be something where we would bring an expert in to, give a demonstration or a lecture or whatever. Not that we're going to be doing canning as a group, I didn't think. I mean, I didn't put that suggestion in there, but that was one of the things people were interested in knowing more about. So yeah, I totally understand. We don't have a professional cooking facility, but we could perhaps organize an event that we would hold at Phipps where they do have a teaching kitchen and could do something like that there as an organized activity.
Ms. Martin, I think you bring up a very good point. It's a little off topic to what we're talking about, but I think it's worth bringing up tonight because we're talking about these advisory councils. I think we need to make it clear that they are advisory councils and they should be coming to council with all of their plans before they proceed with them, because there are times when something may sound good in one of those meetings that has safety implications or policy implications that council has to say no to, or things weren't well thought out. And, I'll say there's a recent, one group is collecting photos from people that are donating photos, and there's really been no policy discussed about how and when those photos of the residences can be used. So I think we're going to have to, after the reorganization and these things are implemented, whatever they are, have a discussion with all of the committees about the need to be bringing to council those proposals that they can't act independently. And I think your comment highlights that. Anybody have other things they may want to add to this tonight?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Please.
I know there
Please.
was pushback about having the library be a member, and I'm fine with that, because I'm not a resident, but I still think a representative of the library should be like a invited to the meetings, maybe not non-voting, but I think to have the library there as a voice, because the library is a big part of our Forest Hills art community. So the library should be of that meeting, doesn't have to be a voting member. in that sense as a compromise. Because I know there were people feeling like we shouldn't have out of town people be part of that committee.
Yeah, and that may be an ordinance problem too, but, well, you know, I think, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you and I talked about this, and yeah, the library is a critical part of this. And I would think the committee should feel free to consistently invite people to their meetings that have input to them. And I think the library is probably the most critical one. And then, like you said, they don't have to be voting, but it could be a standing invitation that this committee sends out that someone from the library is invited to every one of these meetings. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with that.
Okay. You know, I think it could get out of hand if you looked at every arts group in the community. They want a seat and a say. But the library is, I think, it stands above and beyond any other particular arts group that might want to have a say. And I agree with that. And I think we should encourage this group to consistently have them as a presence in their meetings.
There is a Friends of the Library committee in town that is closely aligned with promoting the library, and they are all Forest Hills residents. So we could maybe seek a person from there. Also, I think some of the people who work in the library are also residents. The director is not.
Well, in that case, they'll just be applying to be a member of the committee, and the council will choose them amongst all the other applications.
Yeah.
Anything else on this content before we let it rest? I think the best thing is, why don't you look over the document Mr. Marcus sent to you and see, particularly under functions, is there anything you'd like to tighten up? I believe we've all been sent samples of these documents from other communities. You know,
I put in the chat which ones we had looked at that seemed, you know, parallel.
But, you know, just do your own random search for 10 minutes. You'll find lots and lots of stuff. But if you could maybe send that to me, and we could then have a kind of collated document that you get before the next ops and policies, so we can decide how we want to move forward concretely and not just beat this every month.
Do you want to have Mr. Corbel do any drafting at this point of a sample ordinance that we might consider?
I think I'd rather wait until we get more nuts and bolts from where we all want to be.
Does anybody have any objections to going forward in this manner?
I think we have to decide on basically the bones of the group. How many people are we asking? We have the mission statement, okay, that we would want to be committee members. What night are they meeting? Get some specifics. I'd like to see that before we move forward.
Yeah, I just don't want us to look at this tonight and say, okay, this is solid enough that we as a group of 7 or 8 absolutely want to go down this with no changes or alterations, because what we send to him is being codified. He's so I don't want to spend a lot of time on him. So let's see if anybody has anything. When you think about it in the next 2 weeks, you can tighten things up, make it more concrete. Anything. Just consider that, and then I'll stop talking. This is very broad, and it will be open to considerable interpretation by people proposing a broad range of things that we may never have considered. So let's consider boundaries that you may want to lay out now. Okay, I think that's enough for that. Airbnb ordinance, this is going to be real quick. A resident has brought to Mr. Baoki's attention a possible hole in our Airbnb ordinance revision. Do you want to take a quick run through on that one?
Yeah, we did have some concerns about short-term rentals, and we stated that any rentals that like Airbnb had to be for at least 30 days or more. Now, the folks that are doing the Airbnb rentals are required by our ordinance to report every time they get a new occupant, which would mean that if they went with the 30 days, you'd have 12 different inspections. It seems like it would be very awkward to try to coordinate that with someone leaving, someone coming in, not to mention they have to provide the information on the persons or persons that are renting. And it just seems to me that the ordinance wasn't intended at the time for an entity like the Airbnb as we know it now. So I think we might, look at changing the ordinance to not require the reporting of every time someone moves out if it's an Airbnb. I think if it's a traditional rental, that's different. The alternative is the person would have to apply for a mixed use a variance, and that would be very costly, and I don't think it's reasonable. So I don't know what anyone else thinks about that.
I'll just jump in quickly. I think to go the variance route is it's quite expensive, and that means we have to open this question again and again and again. I think, quite frankly, this person's found a legitimate hole in the ordinance, and I would suggest we consider altering the ordinance. We can't do everything perfectly every time, and I think it's a bit of a regulatory burden without much value. Would anybody else like to consider having the solicitor review that ordinance in light of this problem?
Mayor Porco has his hand up.
Please.
Just a couple of thoughts on this. So the short-term rentals versus long-term rentals, right? I think it's two different animals. That being said, I think certainly every time you change renters on an Airbnb, I don't think that's realistic, but perhaps making it either quarterly or biannually. The risk with the Airbnbs is that you've got people coming in and there are multiple turnovers, right? So essentially there's more people in there kind of creating the wear and tear effect on a house, if that makes sense. Whereas if you have somebody who's renting a home for a long term, I think they're more inclined to kind of treat it like their own home, if that makes sense. So you might want to maybe do it on a quarterly or biannual basis, whatever council ends up deciding, just some food for thought, versus a regular rental where, you might turn a lease over once a year, minimally, perhaps every two. So just give that some consideration as you're kind of evaluating the change.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Ms. Martin has her hand up as well.
Please.
Thank you,
Martin.
Mr. Lawrence. I just wanted to throw out, in addition to what Mayor Porco had started to talk about, I believe with Airbnbs, they're pretty much just like weekends or short period visits, nothing as long as perhaps a month. I was just curious, do we have any rentals that you know of that people do month to month? That would just be I don't believe anybody takes a B&B for that long, but that was just my question. That might be a little concern, but I'm fine the way it is.
Well,
that you suggested.
The Airbnb situation as it is right now is only 30 days, and they've complied with that part of the ordinance. They're not complaining about that because apparently they've found a niche where people are coming in for at least 30 days and doing the Airbnb rental. But I will also comment that I think, requiring an inspection, Mayor Porco suggested biannual. I would suggest annual because, in my opinion, the Airbnb is going to be looked at by the owner on a monthly basis. So I would say that would tend to be kept in a better condition than most rental properties because of that. So just another thing
Yeah.
to think about. Mr. Watkins has a question as well.
Please, Mr. Watkins.
Yeah, I think that we don't have a choice here. I think the ordinance has to be rewritten. It's just completely impractical as it stands. Oh, now, I think also we've got to be careful that we don't rewrite it so that we get sued because we're just targeting Airbnb. But we can't let it stand. It's got to be rewritten.
Can I make a comment?
Please, Mr.
I think we
President.
should take it to the committee of the whole next week when we have Steve Corbel present, because he would be,
Okay.
his input would be very good to have. But
Okay,
I do
let's do
agree
that.
with
Let's
what
do
everyone says. We probably have to do some rework.
That's fine. Let's move it to Cal and move on. I think there's one last thing and one teeny thing. The Tree City Times. We've been talking about going digital for a couple of years. We need to bite the bullet and go ahead with it. If we could do this very quickly. Cindy Sims is handling everything with the Tree City Times. She has on her own done some work with the designer to basically make it go digital, but it would be simply put, a PDF of what we got that you'd get via email. If you subscribe to the Times or the Washington Post, you know that you have the option of looking at each page the way it appears on paper. That's probably a pretty limited, rather difficult way to read a document when you're on your phone. But that's the proposal she has. She's not invested in it. She's just would be very easy to transition to that. Alternatively, we've had some discussions about significantly different ways to do it, and I think Angelo can sum it up faster and more neatly than I can.
I don't know about faster, but yeah, there are a couple of options. Going with a digital newsletter monthly, if you will, that would have short, very concise articles that can be read no more than a paragraph, that would lend itself to be looked at on mobile devices. The problem with that is that on the back end of it, if you're going to say something like read more about this particular situation, we'd have to have a repository on the website to store a document that could be read. And that would be sort of like maybe a blog type situation, so that again, it would be responsive on other devices. The other issue is that we want to get away from PDFs, because again, they're not designed to be used on mobile devices. There are other products that we could look at for a cost, of course, which would take what would traditionally be a PDF and make it a responsive document. So I was planning to look into that in more detail. If we go with the electronic newsletter, I would suggest going with something like Constant Contact or MailChimp. MailChimp would probably be a little less expensive than Constant Contact, and both of those are top-rated programs for doing that. That's pretty much it. Oh, well, let me add one more thing. Regardless of what we do, we need to start collecting, having an opt-in for people to sign up to receive the electronic newsletter, as well as some other things that we can add to the form for the opt-in. I think that's the key there, is to start to collect that information. And I would strongly advise that we do not offer a mailed version of whatever we're doing, because it's just not practical.
Yeah, if we stick to the PDF thing, we can, but that's got a real downside. And otherwise, we have to be creating a completely separate newsletter if we want to keep it on paper and mailed out. Going with the second major option, I think we have to accept we're not going to have paper anymore. which, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's okay. But does anybody have any thoughts on this? I think it'd be nice to make a decision tonight that we should pursue at least which avenue you think we'd like you have us pursue, the PDF or the more newsletter approach.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
So I love the idea of going with a digital newspaper. I mean, that's pretty much how I consume. I think the way the majority of the people consume their media nowadays. There are going to be those handful of stragglers that are in our community that are they just like their paper newsletter. I guess the question I have is, would we entertain providing that to our constituents if they agreed to pay for the like on a paid subscription basis, in other words? So yes, we'll make a paper version available to you if that's what you prefer, but it's going to, cost like a, whatever, a nominal subscription fee to cover just the cost of printing it and shipping it.
I think Angela can better answer the question. But my understanding to do that, if we abandon the PDF approach, is we'd have to really design two newsletters. We'd have to pay a designer to build out the old paper one and then do this completely other structured one. Angela, Mr. Bayoki, can you help with that?
Yeah, that is somewhat correct, unless we went to this, like I said, there's an alternative to a PDF document. There's other type of electronic document that may lend itself to that and may be able to provide a print version. But again, we'd have to explore that a little further. Mr. Erldinger has this.
I do like Frank's idea, pretty much like him. I personally only do electronic media, but there are a lot of folks in Forest Hills around who probably don't do electronic media and who like their paper PCD Times. And to give it as an option, I think would be a good idea. It doesn't have to look pretty. I think, it could be just, it doesn't have to be a nice PDF if it's, I don't think we need to have two different newspapers, but if we can somehow print it out and maybe even people can pick it up at the ball building, something like that would be, I think, good.
May I comment, please?
Please, Ms. Martin.
I agree. I think if we could make the option for people. I don't think we want to do two newspapers. That wouldn't be cost effective. If there's some way we could print this out and a resident needed one, they could go to the borough building on request and someone could print one for them. Thank you.
All right. It sounds like, if I'm hearing correctly, you'd like to explore an electronic newsletter that perhaps would have been then pursue the electronic newsletter approach, but see if there's some way that we could weasel in a printed version. Maybe not beautiful, but so you want us to explore that?
Can I comment, please? I know Jackie
Please.
can't. I think MailChimp does offer a lot of sorting of the audience and metrics that you can track, how people are using it. And I think that would be helpful for us. Also, if we have something tangible going to people, we can promote this on Savvy Citizen, and it will be something other than the kind of announcements that are on Savvy Citizen, and then use MailChimp to acquire and sort and distribute the addresses to people. I think they would have a bigger incentive to do that than to just get Savvy Citizen, where what mostly they see is traffic and weather. So I think it has some value. I tend to want to write long articles, but even mine, I send out on MailChimp a 100-word abstract with a link if they want to read the whole thing. It's just a lot more efficient to do that.
Ms. DeMarco, where the link that you're sending out,
Yeah.
what does it link back to?
It goes back to my webpage.
Okay, but is it a PDF then, or is it a?
it depends. It can either be a video or a slideshow or a PDF, depending on what it is.
Okay.
A recording of a speech or something like that. But I send out only like 100-word or less abstract saying, you know, this is going on, here's where you can find more, and then they go to my webpage.
All right, well, let's see what we can explore in that road and get back to everyone in Ops and Policies a month from now. All right, one last thing, this is just an announcement. The Citizen of the Year Award was extended, nominations were extended to October 16th. So once that date is passed, I'll pass along the nominations. In the revision of our plans, we were going to get a committee together of people to select from the nominations, but it's happened very quickly. Let's just, I'll send them out to the mayor, the borough manager, and the 7 members of council in an email, and then in the executive session at the end of this month, we can make a decision about who gets the nomination. I'd only request again that you please keep those things confidential. Don't talk to anyone about them. And if you print it out, read it, and then throw it away. So I think as of now, we have 3. Unfortunately, one of them's for someone who already did get the award. So we have 2, but I think there may be another one coming in. So we won't have a big pile of choices. But if you do want to add a name, please do so. And I think that is it for my committee tonight. Am I missing anything? Anything you want to bring up? Okay. Look out for that next Tuesday. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Good night, everybody. See you
everyone.
next
Bye.
Tuesday.